Kicking it with Kiki. Kicking it with Kiki. Kicking it with Kiki. Full of personality. Switching up the storyline on God, we making history.
Writing books, changing lives, one day at a time. Put your problems to the side. Enjoy yourself. Free your mind.
Kicking it with Kiki.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to another episode of Kicking It with Kiki, Life, Love, and all that other shit. It's my first segment with Tim of Real Talk with Tim podcast. We're talking all things podcast because we get so many people hitting us up. Why not start a segment, right, Tim? So we are here. Episode 1. Let's Talk Podcast. How you doing?
What's up? What's up? You know, I had to come and kick it with Kiki as I always do every season. Every time you come out with something, you come kick it with me, so I gotta come kick it with you.
And listen, it's funny because we got on the same damn t-shirt.
Hey, for those of you who just listening to the audio and you can't see this video, me and Kiki wearing the same shirt. It's funny how you think I'm listening. That's what the shirt say. Now I promise y'all, this was not planned.
Okay. At all.
It wasn't planned. You know, I just so happened to come from work and to record with her. I had to take off my work shirt and change. You know what I'm saying? And look at us. Look at us. Look
Same
at that.
shirt. It's about to be a bum episode. So the reason for Let's Talk Podcast, we already know we've been doing this for a minute. You've been doing it for a little bit longer than me. We connected on the podcast scene a couple of years ago, and we've been down ever since. And it's just amazing how so many people reach out to you to ask, what have you done? How did you get started? What equipment and things like that? So the topic for discussion today is, why do you want a podcast? And that's for anybody who is listening, who's thinking about starting a podcast. Ask yourself why. For you, Tim, why did you want to start your podcast?
Well, I've always been a person that loved like talking about things that I've experienced or things that I've been through and stuff like that. And I've been doing this like quite longer than what it looks like. It's just that I've been through a whole bunch of different changes or different platforms I wanted to be on and stuff like that. But the whole reason for me wanting a podcast is to, like I said, talk about all of my experiences and stuff. But I always wanted to talk about it with people or talk to people that been through the same things, or, you know, whether it's good or bad experiences. And I just wanted to share it. You know, it's almost like a person that have like a journal or a diary or something. They write in their thoughts and stuff like that. And it's not that I'm not a person with a voice. It's not that I'm afraid to speak, you know, my mind and stuff like that at all. But I just love to like put it on a platform where as though it can stay there and it can get around and maybe reach people, maybe change some people. You know what I'm saying? Somebody may be in a bad situation or bad relationship or something like that, and my voice just may be something that they if they heard it, you know, it just may spark, you know what I'm saying, may make them change.
Right.
So I just wanted to make change. That's all, pretty much.
Yeah, I love that. I started mine for the same reason. I don't have the traditional sense of podcasting because I'm a life coach. So mine's is centered around on personal development mindset. We talk to all individuals from all walks of life or whatever, but the main objective for me is to get people to change the way that they think. So conversations they may have, they hear me talk to other people. You've been on the podcast as well as we do individual episodes by myself. I just want people to feel better leaving the podcast than when they started listening to it.
Yeah,
it's all about like personal growth, really.
Yeah.
You know?
And for those of you who listen to this podcast and have heard mine before, I talk a lot about relationships and love, and I just started talking more about life things. But the reason why I talk a lot about relationships and stuff like that is because I feel like that's my strong area. And I know a lot of people every day go through relationship things, whether it's the good or the bad, breakups, the makeups, I don't necessarily talk about sex like that. I used to, but I don't do it too much. Who's to say I may one day? Who never know? But
Yeah.
I talk about that because I know a lot of people going through that every day, and maybe, like I said, maybe somebody can hear something that can change something.
Right. And my focal point, we talk about life, love, and all that other shit, right? But my focal point is changing the narrative within our consciousness, our community, and our culture, because having those tough conversations, we need to have those conversations. So anyone who is listening, who is out there thinking about starting a podcast, just know your why, man. How important is it for them to know why they want to start? What do you think?
And I can, well, it's funny you say that, because when I first, like I said, I've always been doing it. I can go back as far as 2014, is when I started. Like I told people before, I popped my phone up in my car. I used to talk to YouTube and posting and stuff like that. But when I started to get real serious, some of the best advice that I got, I was always told to have a target audience or have like an angle with your podcast. I've always talked about the relationship area, everything in the relationship area. So it wasn't until I started to do it longer, after so many breaks and going through the extra stuff,
Mm-hmm.
to where I started talking about more things, or started to be more detailed, and started to meet all different kinds of people and stuff like that did the same thing. And I realized that, like, I needed a target audience. Like, I needed, because when I was talking about relationships and stuff, I was talking about other stuff, but I never really thought like angle or target audience and stuff like that. Later on, I thought it. So I said, you know what? I'll just keep it specifically about relationships. And I'm gonna tell y'all one thing. The good thing is, when you do meet people, y'all can bounce off each other ideas.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie to y'all. When me and Kiki met, and I realized that her podcast was about self-love, self-development, all that type of stuff. And then I seen other people, but mostly her, because when we met, we hit it off real good. The working relationship is amazing. And I was like, you know what? I need to start talking about regular life stuff too. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Anything involving life. So that's when I started just thinking, like, man, because don't nobody really want to hear all about relationships.
Not all the
Maybe,
time.
maybe some people want to hear about self-love. I got episodes, like Life as a Girl Dad. I got episodes about choices. I got episodes about healing from the pain, healing from the past, stuff like that.
Got an episode about kids
Co-parenting,
too.
co-parenting. So the co-parenting umbrella can go a long way.
Yes.
Like talking about life choices can go a long way. I got an episode about my grandmother, rest in peace, Granny. So
Yes.
you can just talk about a lot of stuff. And in the future, I've just may venture off and talk about other things. So
Yeah.
so this talking about relationships can go a long way too, but it's only so much you want to talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So who knows, y'all? I ain't gonna say too much on here, but I may do some other things in the future though. I may not.
You
It's
have
all
to
about,
when
all
it
about
comes
growth.
to exactly. And I'm glad what you said. It's all about growth. Yes, you have intentions, and yes, you want to make sure that you have your target audience and figure out what topics you want to talk about and things like that. And you may be a single person where you want to talk about life as a single person, or you may not want to have guests on your podcast. You just want it to be you. You may want to have your podcast where it's only 15-minute long episodes. So you have to work out the logistics of it before you actually can see the growth, I should say, or see the audience come, because that will happen. As long as you show up and you're consistent and you bring that energy, your people will come. They will find you. And I'm glad that you talk about that you touched on the different topics, because don't nobody want to keep hearing the same type of topic. Let's just put it out there.
Yeah, no doubt. And I realized that real early on. You know what I'm saying? One thing I did realize when I did switch up the topics, the views started to raise. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they was there in the beginning when I talk about it, but that's the beginning. And normally when you start stuff, normally when you start something like a podcast or you making music or something like that, normally the people that's closest to you, they support you, and you see numbers, you see hits, but you ain't gonna see that many hits when you start making it more worldwide. until you start talking about different things that people can
Yeah.
relate to.
Yeah.
So, and I try to keep that mindset.
What do you think about starting a podcast with hot topics, talking about things that's like relevant or going on in the world right now?
You mean like in the news and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
the news,
Um,
shade room, everything that's going, like current
I
events, things
think,
like that.
well, one thing is you can never run out of content. That's the one
Absolutely.
thing. That's the one
Absolutely.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mean that's more of like in a gossipy type of area.
Mm-hmm.
Uh I mean, to each his own.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that I would want to do. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if it's working, because it's just like it's a news outlet, pretty much. A news outlet platform, podcast. That's a good move, though.
It is a
It's
good
a good
move,
move.
but I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell anybody that's listening who's thinking about going that route, make sure you fact check. Don't just be coming up here talking about stuff without checking the facts, because you don't want to get sued. You don't have to get your page or your podcast banned or shut down and stuff like that. So make sure that you're doing your homework when you're talking about current events, just to make sure that you're giving the most accurate information that you possibly can.
And and you got to be careful with those type of platforms and stuff, because a lot of the times a lot of things that people like Shade Room and Hollywood Unlocked and the DMV Hoods and News, anybody who have an outlet like that,
You know
a
them,
lot
don't
of
you,
a
Tim?
lot of that stuff can be embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you got to make sure, because don't nobody like don't know, like, let's just say they posting stuff about a family lost a loved one or something like that, or talking about a loved one being lost, and every family may not want their lost relative on their website. Everybody don't want detailed information on there, so it's a tricky little type of platform. But if you just, I don't know, it's a gift and a curse having that type of platform.
Right.
A lot of
Absolutely.
that stuff should be kept sacred. Like, why are you posting that type of personal information about that, like, worldwide? And then it's just gonna keep going around and around and around.
Mm-hmm.
But a news platform itself, like I said, you can never run out of content. Just like sports, like
Yep.
Sports Center and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, you'll never run out of content. And that's why I'm constantly thinking about different avenues that I may want to go down. Because I'm gonna be honest with y'all, the podcasting and podcaster in me, it'll probably never go anywhere, but the content just might.
Mm-hmm.
The content just may transition to other types of content. That's the beauty of it. You can talk about anything in the world, but some stuff you can never run out of, can never run out of information.
Absolutely. And that's the thing when you're creating content. Let's talk about that for a minute. When you create content, who do you do it for first? Do you create content for you first? Or do you do it for like your listeners, your audience?
Um, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. And a lot of times when I do think of episode titles, I think a lot more than I think about myself. I think about what my listeners want to hear. But I'm still going to talk about what I want to talk about. But I try to think about if I talked about this particular thing enough already, or if I'm talking too much about this or too much about that. That's the challenging part about it, because sometimes, yeah, you want to talk about whatever you want to talk about, but sometimes you have to really think like, damn, dude, are people really getting tired of hearing me say, I don't know if I can say it on your platform, Kiki,
Go ahead,
but
go ahead, go ahead.
look, like when it comes to the female podcasters, right? I'm not. I hear a lot of them do this, but sometimes everybody don't want to keep hearing you say niggas ain't shit,
Yeah.
or fellas, don't nobody want to keep hearing you bash women and saying the B word and that they ain't shit. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you gotta, yeah, you can talk with no filter and stuff like that, but sometimes you can just do too much and just be too harsh on certain people. You know what I'm saying? Just like
Mm-hmm.
you just gotta chill. But like with me, but so to answer your question, I think more so about the listeners
Mm-hmm.
and what I believe, because I feel like I'm in tune with my listeners enough to the point where
What they
I know
like.
what they would want to hear from me.
Mm-hmm.
And like for example, like with the Life as a Girl Dad episode, I did two of them. And I know a lot of people like to hear about good fathers and stuff like that, or good parenting and stuff like that, because there's a lot of parents out here. You know what I'm saying? So I know people wouldn't mind hearing like personal experiences. Like when I did part 2 of My Life as a Girl Dad, I had my kids on it. I
Okay.
knew that a lot of people would think that was interesting
Mm-hmm.
because it gives them a little bit of insight on who I am and as a dad. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it may be another one. You know what I'm saying? So like you can never. It's just certain things you have to just put in your mind. Like, damn, do my listeners want to hear this? Like with your like with your platform, you talk about a whole lot of self development and stuff. Everybody would love to hear that because that's inspirational and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just imagine if you switched up and you just start talking about some crazy shit. They're like, oh no, we ain't used to this from Kiki. Like, what?
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so moral of the story that we just talked about with the question that I asked him, make sure that you're choosing content that's broad, but that's going to reflect your personality as far as the platform. Because you don't want to just come talk about the sports one day and then you talk about the weather the next day. And then a week from now, when you release the next episode, you're talking about relationships. You all over the place. Just don't be all over the place. Figure out what your intention is for your platform. Find out who your target audience will be and center those topics around that. Now, if you come up with a topic that's very broad, like relationships, life, love, all the other shit, I mean, you could talk about whatever. But at the same time, you don't want to make it where people don't understand or identify with who you are as your platform, because people always watching. They're like, okay, Kiki don't know what she got going on. So let me go over here to Tim's platform because he got his shit together.
Yeah, most definitely. Most
Mm.
definitely. And another thing to think about is like when you come and trying to do podcasting, the number one thing that I've learned along the way, I didn't know this going in, but I learned this along the way that you just gotta have balance. You gotta have balance between your personal life and your podcast. And it's just like a typical day of you going to work and you get off of work and you go home. Cause some of y'all may be different people at work than you are at home.
Mm-hmm.
Different people during the work week and then different person on the weekend when you partying. You may be in the club shaking your ass on the weekend and acting drunk and toxic, and then when you come to work Monday morning, you're the most professional person in the world.
Yeah.
So but you're balancing that because that's something you want to do. You want to be able to go to work, make your money, get off, party, have a life. But when you're doing something like this, podcasting, to some people it can be a hobby, and to some people it can be something real serious. But if you want it to be real serious, you have to think about it like it's your job.
Yeah.
Because you definitely can make money from it. The money gonna start slow because you just starting off, and it actually has to reach people.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely has to reach people, and you have to make sure you're talking about the right things because the right things will go viral.
Yes. The right
Don't
things
just
will
get
go.
on here talking ghetto and all that crazy shit.
I mean, and I'm gonna just say, if that's your personality, be who you are. God,
yeah, I'm just
be
playing,
who you
y'all.
are.
That you might reach an audience.
But
like
if I was to get on here and start doing that, what you gonna say, Tim? If I was to start just being ghetto and talking crazy, what would you say to me?
Just out the blue, it would be questionable because people would have had to seen that long time ago to like.
You would be like, "Can you all right?"
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like people would have to see that already in you. They would have to know that you have like you versatile with your personality. Like,
yeah, I ain't never been that. I ain't gonna be that.
Yeah,
not
like,
knocking anybody, and like I said, be who you are. I'm just a little country girl from Greensburg, Louisiana. I know that. That's me. That's gonna always be me. But I've always been the person to uplift and motivate people. I want people to live their best life as their best self. So that life coach in me is going to always shine through in every episode, no matter what platform I'm on.
Hey, but let me say this though, like I know that stuff works though. It works because it's a podcast out there right now. I forgot the name, but it's two girls and they be their podcast scenery and stuff is like on a couch.
Yes. So what
I
is their
forgot
name?
what's their name again.
No something podcast.
I
know you're talking about. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because I can see both of them. Yes.
Right. So their podcast, we already know how unfiltered
and they
uncensored,
man, and they talk about everything.
And it's
works.
fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's fire, man. So I guess I guess however you act and present yourself, that's the audience that you want to attract. But you got to keep that though.
Keep that
You know
and
what I'm
make sure
saying?
that you
Whatever you
giving a
do.
message though. Make sure you leaving a mark on people. You can't, I mean, you find some type of resolution too. If you're talking about, uh drinking every Friday night at 10 p.m., then make sure that you talking about that constantly. But what's the point? Like give some type of structure or resolution, or why do we drink every Friday at 10 p.m.? Like
Right.
what's the motive?
Right.
So it plays a big part in it. And before we get off here, because we ain't trying to keep y'all long, because we want y'all to keep coming back to the segment.
I do want to say this though.
Yeah.
I've been every time somebody came to me and they asked about podcasts and stuff, they always ask me about equipment and stuff like that, or
We
what's
gonna talk
important,
about that.
or what's important and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So am I ahead or what? Because we gonna get to it.
We gonna get to that. That's
I'm gonna
another
slow down. I'm gonna
episode.
slow
That's
down for
another
y'all because
episode.
that's another big factor. That's
Mhm.
another big factor.
Yes, we talking about that. That's in the next couple episodes, because the episode after this one is choosing the right podcast name. Yeah, so we talking about that next time. Y'all make sure that y'all tune in. It has been amazing. Tim, listen, you was the only person that I thought about to do this segment with, so thank you, because you're getting a guy's perspective and a girl's perspective, and we've been doing it. And I feel like our podcasts have relevance. I feel like it's growing. I feel like, our audience show up, and I feel like we just vibe well together. So thank you for being a part of this new segment.
Man, thank you for having me. I always want to get on here and talk about podcasting with anybody who's trying to do it, give my little advice or whatnot. But as I said early on, y'all, just have balance and have a target audience. And balance is the most important thing, because I done seen too many podcasters fall off. And I ain't even gonna lie, you gonna have that thought in your head a time or two. You definitely are, because I definitely have. Like I said, I've been doing this since 2014, and I've been in and out of it, different names and all of that good stuff. But just have balance, choose the right audience, just know what works. Just kind of listen to different podcasters and look at what they talking about. Bounce off of ideas. Just see what works. You don't even have to get on here and talk about relationships. You don't always have to get on here and talk about self-development. I listen to podcasts all the time. I listen to boxing podcasts. I listen to sports podcasts. I listen to podcasters who talk specifically about TV shows, TV reviews and stuff like that. I listen to all of that stuff because you can never run out of content. There's one guy I listen to, Mark Dark. He's a YouTuber, and he gives his reviews on each episode of like Power, BMF, Snowfall, stuff like that. You can never run out of content like that when you do stuff like that. So think about the things that you can never run out of ideas about. Think about the things for real, if that you're the most passionate about, and just go from there. Don't be like nobody else.
Right. Be yourself.
Talk about what you know. Talk about what you know and what you're strong at. Don't if you're not a self-love, self-development type of talker, don't even try to go down that avenue. If you ain't good at talking about relationships, don't go down that avenue.
Because your audience will
talking
know
about sports, make a sports podcast. Talk about every game, the stats and stuff like that. You would never go wrong.
Yep, because your audience will know when you're not prepared. Your audience will know when you're not, in the know about certain things that you're talking about. It breathes through the sound waves. And if you're watching on YouTube, you could tell it on people's facial expressions that they're just not into it. But yeah, again, Tim, thank you for being a part of Let's Talk Podcast. Thank you guys for listening in. We will see you next time at the same time. Y'all make sure that y'all leave us a comment. Make sure that y'all let us know what you think about this episode of Let's Talk Podcast. And we will see you guys next month. Anything you want to say before we get on out here?
What I do want to say is please make sure that you follow me on Instagram, Real Talk with Tim, Twitter, RTWT Podcast, TikTok, Real Talk with Tim Podcast. Oh, please make sure that y'all go to my link in my bio When you go to the link in the bio, click on the Real Talk with Tim store, the first link, cop that shirt so we can see you with that nice material on your body.
And all of this information will be in the show notes, so you don't have a choice but to go ahead and do. So go ahead and support Tim. You know, make sure you support Kicking It with Kiki as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can stay in the know. And look, it's funny how you think of how I'm listening. We talk, we podcasters, we talk, so we ain't listening.
I know you listening.
Y'all listening. No, we always listen. So your thoughts are relevant, your comments are relevant, your feedback is relevant. So make sure you hit us up. You guys stay breezy. Any other thing you want to talk about before we go?
Stay breezy.
All right, later.